Welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing the inequalities unit by taking a look at multi-step inequalities. So let's take a look at a few things to remember right now. So here we are at a few things to remember as we go through. These are different things that we're going to run into as we're working through multi-step problems. We may not see all of them in every problem, but we want to make sure that we do any of these things as we go about solving. So remember, we're going to combine any like terms that we come across. Don't forget to use the distributor property when we come up to it. Move all of the variables to one side of the inequality. And remember that if we multiply or divide by a negative, we're going to flip that inequality symbol. And then when we're done, we're going to graph our solution on a number line. So now that we have all those ideas and things that we could run into, again, we're not going to run into them on every single problem, but we'll definitely run into some of them. Let's take a look at example A. So here we are at example A, and we're going to start by simplifying our inequality and then solving. And then over there on the right-hand side, we've got a number line that we're going to graph onto. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line down from our inequality symbol to separate the two sides. And then we're going to take a look at what we need to do first on the left-hand side. And it looks like we have to combine like terms before we start solving our problem. So we're going to have to combine our 2x and our negative 5x because they are like terms. 2x and negative 5x are going to give me negative 3x. Positive 7 doesn't have anything to combine with, so I'm going to just bring that down. Bring down my symbol, I didn't do anything yet, and then bring down the 28. So now that we've done that, it looks like we've got a regular two-step inequality, so I'm going to remove my constant by subtracting 7 on both sides of the inequality. These are going to cancel. Bring down my negative 3x. I did not multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign stays the same. 28 minus 7 is going to be 21. Now we're on to our last step. We're going to divide both sides by negative 3. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So divide both sides by negative 3. These are going to cancel. Bring down our x. Since we did multiply or divide by a negative here, we're going to have to make sure that we flip our sign. And then 21 divided by a negative 3 is going to be negative 7. So our solution is x is greater than negative 7. So now we need to graph that on our number line. So we're going to put a negative 7 right here in the middle since that's the number that we got. I don't see equals 2, I just see greater than. So we're going to have ourselves an open dot, and then we're going to draw our line going towards the right since the numbers greater to negative 7 are to the right-hand side. And remember, that means that a solution to this inequality is any number that's greater than negative 7. Now let's go ahead and take a look at example B. So here we are at example B, and we can see that this time we're going to have a few more things to do in order to simplify our inequality. So let's start by drawing our wall down from our inequality symbol. And now we have a few things that we need to do. It looks like we have multiple x's, so we're going to have to be combining like terms, but before we can do any of that, we're going to need to distribute that negative there to everything inside the parentheses. Since it is just a negative symbol with no number in between, I know that's going to be a negative 1 that I'm going to be distributing. So I'm going to distribute a negative 1 to the x and a negative 1 to the positive 3. So bring down my negative 5x. I didn't do anything with that. Negative 1 times positive x is going to be negative x. Negative 1 times positive 3 is going to be negative 3. Bring down my inequality symbol. I didn't do anything with that yet. And then bring down the negative 12. So now that I've done that, I need to start by combining, or next thing I need to do is combine my like terms. So I'm going to combine my negative 5x and my negative x, since they are the things that are alike. Negative 3 can't be combined with them because it's not an x. So negative 5x and negative 1x is going to give me negative 6x. Bring down my negative 3, bring down my inequality symbol, and bring down my negative 12. Now that I've done that, I've got a regular two-step inequality, so I'm going to remove my constant by doing the inverse operation. The operation that's inverse of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. These are going to cancel. Bring down my negative 6x. That didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign stays the same. Negative 12 plus 3 is going to be negative 9. And now that I've got that, I'm going to do my final step, which is to divide both sides by negative 6. So divide by negative 6 on both sides. Remember, the inverse operation of multiplication is division. These are going to cancel. Bring down my x, and since I did multiply or divide by a negative, I'm going to flip my sign. And then I've got negative 9 divided by negative 6, which is a fraction that can be reduced. So negative 9 divided by negative 6 is going to be a positive 3/2. So my answer is x is less than positive 3/2. So now I need to graph that. So I'm going to put 3 over 2 in the middle of my number line. It looks like I have just less than, so that's going to be an open dot. And the numbers that are less than 3/2 are going to be all the numbers to the left. So that's where I'm going to draw my arrow. And that brings me to the end of example B. So now let's go ahead and take a look at example C. Here we are at example C, and it looks like the thing that we're going to be faced with this time is variables on both sides of our inequality. So we're going to start by drawing our wall down from the side, and now we want to get x's to one side. However, we've got a problem. We can't really move that negative x because it's being divided by 4, and we can't really move that 2x because, again, the other side's being divided by 4. So since that's the first thing we have to get rid of is that the pesky divides by 4, we're going to do that first. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4 to get rid of divides by 4. So again, I'm going to multiply this side by 4, and I can't just multiply by the 2. I have to also multiply the 1. I have to multiply everything on one side by 4. These are going to cancel, bring down my negative x. 4 times 1 is going to be 4. 4 times 2x is going to be 8x. And now I've got an area where I can move my variables from one side to the other. So since I want to make sure that all my variables are on one side, and I've already got one side where it has the variable, so I already have one side that has just variables, I'm going to move the 8x. I can move the x to the other side, the negative x to one side, and then move the 4 to the other side, but that's more steps than I need. And since I'm not going to try and do more steps than I need, I'm going to move this 8x to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. So 8x and negative 8x are going to cancel each other out. Bring down my 4. I didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign is going to stay the same. Negative x minus 8x is going to be negative 9x. So now I'm left with just 4 on one side and negative 9x on the other. So to get rid of that negative 9, or times negative 9, I'm going to have to divide both sides by negative 9. Negative 9 divided by negative 9 is going to cancel. It's going to leave me with x. Since I did divide by a negative, I'm going to have to flip my sign, and then 4 divided by negative 9 does not reduce, so I'm going to end up with negative 4/9 as my answer. That's okay, fractions are a part of us. So my solution is x is greater than negative 4/9. Now I need to graph that on my number line, so negative 4/9 goes right in the middle. Looks like I have greater than, so I'm going to have an open dot. And the numbers that are greater than are to the right, so I'm going to draw my arrow to the right-hand side. Now let's take a look at that last example. So here we are at example D, and it looks like it's going to require all of our inequality solving skills to get this one done. So let's not panic, take it one step at a time, and start by drawing our wall down from our inequality symbol. So now looking at the things I need to start with, it looks like I have the distributive property on the left-hand side, so I'm going to start with that. So I'm going to distribute negative 3 to the 2x, and then negative 3 to the 6.5. Negative 3 times positive 2x is going to be negative 6x. Negative 3 times 6.5 is going to be negative 19.5, so I'm going to write that down. Bring down my inequality symbol. Since I didn't multiply or divide by a negative, bring down my 1/2 x. So now I have a situation where I have x's on both sides of my inequality, so I'm going to have to move one of them. I'm going to move the negative 6x since I'm going to get all my x's to my right-hand side. That will leave my constants on my left-hand side. So I'm going to add 6x to both sides, add 6x to both sides. These are going to cancel, bring down my negative 19.5. I didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign is going to stay the same. Then I'm going to need to combine 1/2 x and 6x, so you can either write that as 6 and 1/2 x. I'm going to write it as 6.5x. Since the other side is a decimal, I'm going to use this side as a decimal. It doesn't really matter. You can use it as a fraction. You can leave it as an improper fraction, but since one side of my inequality is a decimal already, I'm going to turn this to a decimal because adding 6 and 1/2 or 6 and 0.5 is easier for me. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 6.5. Divides both sides by 6.5. These are going to cancel. Bring down my x. I did not multiply or divide by a negative. I multiplied or divided into a negative, but not by a negative, so my sign stays the same. Then negative 19.5 divided by 6.5 is negative 3. And that has brought us to the end of the problem. So really not as bad as it could have been. So our answer is x is greater than or equal to negative 3. So now we need to graph. So negative 3 goes on our number line. It looks like we have greater than or equal to. So we're going to have ourselves a closed dot. And then the numbers that are greater than or equal to negative 3 are going to be on the right-hand side. So we're going to draw our arrow to the right-hand side. Now that brings us to the end of this problem and the end of this video. So if you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one.